Okay, we'll go and call this meeting, the Finance Committee meeting to order. Ms. Mims will be here momentarily. In the meantime, I can try to go ahead and take some minutes here as we go. So let's call the meeting to order, the August 20th Finance Committee meeting. It's 6:02. We'll take attendance here. Alderman Ryan Myers.
Here.
Alderman Frank Hunt.
Here.
Alderman Van Buskirk.
Here.
And Alderman Jason Green's here, and Alderman Mims will be here momentarily. So the first budget review department we have will be the police department. Now, how you doing, Chief? I've just got a football practice, so it could be better. But anyway, so what I'd like to ask everybody giving a presentation today, if there's any type of major changes or anything with the budget compared from this year to last year, that bring those up to help kind of maybe streamline this process. If there's any questions that some folks up here may have, so that way those comments may alleviate such. So at any rate, the floor is yours, sir.
All right, just to get right into it, I'm going to just kind of do an overview of each fund that we use: general fund, public safety sales tax fund, and capital fund, compared to last year. Without going through each line item, there's not as many line items as there used to be. I'd be happy to answer any questions we might have along the way. FY20 request, we really, when we set out, we were really trying to be flat and actually less than our budget request for last year, which we were able to do. We were at $60,000 less of a general fund request in this budget request compared to last year. However, then we got hit with the insurance numbers, which were substantial. The insurance numbers between the health insurance increase and the general liability increase was about $177,000. So we originally thought we were going to be $60,000 under last year's budget request in the general fund. Then we got hit with those two numbers, so we're actually $116,000 over last year's general fund request.
$116,000?
Yes, ma'am. And that's due specifically to the health insurance increase, which was $137,000, and the general fund liability increase, which was $39,000, roughly, almost $40,000. We have not, in the FY20 request, we've not asked for any additional personnel as part of this initial request. And actually, there's very few supplies or commodities or services that we've asked for above and beyond last year, with the exception of a couple little things, which I can go into just to point out for discussion items if you'd like, before I move on to anything else. Is that clear enough about the general fund request so we can just keep moving? Okay, we are asking for a slight increase of about $5,000 to our jail budget. Our jail budget is an expense that's shared with the court. We find that we're running really close on our FY19 jail budget this year, so we're asking for a small increase of $5,000 for next year. Again, because it is a shared account, we often don't really have control over if the judge sentences somebody to some jail time. We just kind of have to communicate with her and plan on that. Depending on the types of cases she sees, she may have one year where she issues out more jail time than another year. So that $5,000 is kind of arbitrary, just based on what happened this year in planning for FY20. Does that make sense? A couple other small things. We'd like to bring back the Nixle. If you guys remember Nixle from prior budget years, it's a citywide service in which we can make public service announcements such as incoming inclement weather, road closings, major accidents that might cause a traffic diversion. People can actually sign up for that Nixle. It's a free service that we would provide to the citizens, and we're able to blast out real-time updates from our dispatch center. As sort of a public awareness kind of thing. We had it before, and we lost it a few budget years ago. We've asked to bring that back to the tune of about $4,700, and that would allow both the citywide. It wouldn't be just the police department. Public Works could use it as well, codes, whomever. That's what the expense is for that service. Questions about that one? No?
How many people have signed up for it in the past?
I don't have that in front of me. I know we used it pretty frequently, especially in the weather change months. And right now we're relying on Facebook, and of course that's not real time. You got to be on Facebook. Whereas Nixle actually sends them a text message. So it's pretty useful, and most, I think, actually all municipalities in our area use it. I can barely read that. Yeah, sure.
The next one was also something that was requested. As he mentioned, that we had several people asking about that when they were trying to get information regarding what was going on with our, especially this year with the amount of snow engagements that we ended up having. So that was part of it too.
Okay, I was just curious how many people had signed up for it.
Sure, I don't have those totals on us, but it was I was not familiar with it until it was brought up this past winter and asking if we still had it, and so we decided this year to try to get in the budget.
I think it's a good service. I
sure.
was just curious as to.
Sure, we could work on that. No problem.
Well, and of course, if we were able to do that, we'd kind of make it a media campaign to make sure people are aware of it, and make sure we're getting the most bang for the buck, so to speak.
Nice.
Oh, yeah, and as Captain Rogers pointed out, it's based on our population, not necessarily the number of people that sign. Our pricing schedule is based on our city's population.
Okay.
Not necessarily how many people sign up for it. Another aspect we're investigating is it's called Archive Social, and it's basically a social media records retention program. Obviously, social media is becoming, it's more and more popular. We get records requests for various social media content, and it's designed for public entities to be able to memorialize their social media activity in the event of, to avoid future litigation. It's a whole program designed around that concept. It's $4,800, and again, that would also be citywide. It would cover the city's Facebook page as well as our Facebook page, and across multiple platforms, if you will. And it's really just records retention, because we are starting to see a little more interest in records on our social media platforms, information, I should say. Questions on that? Not an expert on that one. I think I got Captain Harper in the back of the room if you want some real detail on it. A couple other minor things. It's a $5,000 item, so I feel like I need to explain what it is. Because we are a 911 center, we maintain a recorder. It's called a NICE recorder, and I don't remember what the acronym is. But what it does is it actually records all of our 911 calls and our radio traffic in-house. It's a very expensive piece of equipment. The annual maintenance agreement for that is $5,000. And we've not had that the past couple of years. We've literally, on kind of like borrowed time, the lifespan of this device is around 5 years. We're at the 5-year mark. Repair services for the motherboard, which is like the main recording interface, starts at $2,000 for the equipment and $250 an hour for the service technicians, in addition to their time and their travel. Whereas with the maintenance agreement, we can avoid any unexpected costs for that NICE recorder to maintain its service life.
What's the overall replacement cost on that? I figure it's more than what you just quoted, but
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, I know I want to say when we last looked at 5 years ago, it was like around $20,000 to $25,000. I mean, it's expensive, which is why we want to, maintain it as best we can. The maintenance agreement will make sure it stays updated and serviced without any extra cost, because we do have to have it as long as we're a 911 center. So if it were to go down and we didn't have some maintenance, we'd be coming back asking for money to buy a replacement or at least service the one we have.
does the software run out like on the Motorola radios, or does that have to be renewed with licenses and whatnot?
That's part of the maintenance contract.
Okay.
It's the whole thing. It's
Gotcha.
That's what and it's been in our budget for many years, just since we bought the thing, to keep it up and running, because they are expensive. The only other thing really is a Leads Online subscription, which is an investigative tool which allows us to track stolen property. When a victim has their property stolen, we can enter the serial numbers into that piece of that subscription service, and if anybody tries to pawn it or sell it, it'll actually alert us. And that's something we don't have right now. So it'll actually help us get citizens' property back, because pawn shops do remain a popular way to dispose of stolen property. Subscription-based, $2,700 a year. And
27.
total? $2,700. The final bit is about $3,500 in training. As you know, we've lost quite a few officers the past couple of years, and we're getting, in a lot of cases, newer and inexperienced officers, and we need some continuing education money for them. That's about $3,500 for that. And other than that, everything is the same from last year. items in the general fund.
One second here. Oh, thank you for some of that information. I wanted to comment that I had an opportunity to get informed about the LEADS program and some of the benefits associated with that. And obviously, that's something that could provide some opportunities. That was that 2 years ago that was taken out?
Yes,
Is that what it was? Okay. I had a quick question here. And I appreciate your explanation on the health insurance situation and the additional cost that we incurred. Obviously, that was a predominant expense of that. What would it take in terms of money? And if you can't answer this now, I'm curious at some point to fund a full-time jail staff. This is something that I know we've had conversations in the past, and some other aldermen have had conversations about. I was kind of curious if you could present a number of some sort.
Sure. Oh, absolutely. We, early in this process, working with Russ and Damon, we start identifying what our problems are operationally. Obviously, our lack of jail staff is a big one. It affects all those outstanding warrants.
Yeah.
It affects keeping officers on the street. It's kind of a ripple effect. So staffing the jail solves one of those problems. So we've prepared some numbers for that. Obviously, traffic safety is another big problem, not having dedicated traffic units. We prepared numbers for that as well. Specifically, if we were able to hire 4 booking personnel, we'd be able to staff 24/7. The price for 4 booking personnel at about $65,000 per, that's pay and benefits, mind you, not making $65,000 in salary, is $260,000 roughly for 4 jail staff. And that opens that jail up 24/7, which we think will have a dramatic impact on the number of warrants we can pick up. We've heard a lot about that from courts, from the Board of Aldermen as well. So we recognize that as something we need to be looking at to solve.
Appreciate that. Thank you. Did anyone else have any other questions? Alderman Myers?
Yeah, are we still on, we're just going with general fund?
Just
right
general
now?
fund for now.
Okay. I know since we've kind of shimmied over to having an appointed chief, I see that line item is gone. Does that's just going to roll into the commissioned officer
Yes, sir.
line item? And then we've hired almost a dozen officers in the last year or two?
13,
13?
but we lost 30, so
Yeah.
our authorized strength is still 36.
Gotcha. So the overtime went up 10 grand. We've hired 13. Or was there? I figured that would be shuffled from overtime to just normal salary.
Overtime is kind of like predicting the price of gas.
Gotcha.
If you have a year like last year, where we had so many major scenes, those are very expensive. They require a lot of overtime to work from front to back. And of course, this year's been a bit of a elevated pace as well. So what we do is we itemize based on what's going on and what do we expect to happen next year. We could be wrong and not need near as much. We could be wrong and need more. It really is a best guess that we use from finance documents based on people's assignments, what kind of overtime they used last year, et cetera, and make our best guess.
Are you guys
do our
coming in?
best to stick to it.
Yeah, right. Are you guys coming in kind of where you expected to for this current year?
I track it from pay period to pay period. I actually download the numbers and look at it. And we're right about where we need to be. A little bit higher maybe in some civilian overtime, a little bit lower in civilian or sworn officer straight time. It all kind of is balancing out. We're right on track, though, at this point.
Gotcha.
Personnel costs.
And then last question, it's not a lot, but I noticed it was the siren. We went from $600 to $4,700 for the Blue Valley siren maintenance.
Now, I think we moved a Captain Rogers put that together. I'm gonna do the microphone slide and let her figure that out. I think it's actually to do with. Hold on.
I figured that's a torrent. It's the last page under repairs and maintenance. 1, 2, 3, 4 lines down.
We're on sound 4,700.
That's what we always pay for it.
I could have sworn.
Give me a second. I brought last year's budget as well. So
We also do a contractual service, the warning sirens contractual service that we, for the electricity. Is that what you're looking at?
Okay, yeah, I saw the contractual service. That's what I was looking at was the 600, but
Yeah.
the
And then there's
Last year's was 4,700 as well.
Oh, yeah, I see it now. Okay, that's my bad. That's all I got.
Okay, no worries. Okay, anything else on the general fund?
Well, I didn't think we had a card reader maintenance fee. It says on here, $1,000, or no. They need to enlarge these print for us retired people.
Yeah, well, as much as I hate to admit it, I'm struggling a little bit as well.
Our ACS card.
The AC, it's the door lock card reader, which
Oh,
we've had
okay.
for years.
Okay, got it.
I'm gonna make a point of order here. If we have people button in to get their turn to speak, so please do that so that we can make sure, yeah. Alderman Frank Hunt.
Looking back at the totals of $5,764,229, the way the system is set up, we don't see figures from the previous year or the year before that. So I know you've come up with about 151,000 extra that you talked about. That's not included in this 5,764,229?
No, there's about 116,000, and the 5,764,229, that's in there.
So all of that you asked for in the beginning?
Not the booking positions that Alderman Green asked about, but everything else that's in this document is within that 5,764,229.
Okay. And, all of the things that you talked about, the health insurance increase, the other 4 or 5 items, I have just a rough total of 151,000. Am I correct?
Well, there was, the difference is our, because it's spread across, some go up a little bit, some go down a little bit, the number of officers, so we're working with that total impact. So although health insurance went up considerably, some of the other areas went down a little bit, so the adjusted total from FY19 to FY20 is 116,000. I'm simply pointing out that the big impact was from the insurance costs, which is really not something we even know about until our budget is put together.
I think I understand that,
Yeah.
that ugly worm. So,
Like, for instance, deferred comp went down $46,000, so they kind of start to level each other out.
so now I redirect to Russ over here. You see what I'm facing as far as some of the figure difficulties and comparisons? Okay, thank you.
Okay, is there any other questions that anybody has concerning the general fund with the police department? All right, I made a mistake earlier on. I forgot to ask for a motion to approve of the August 6th minutes when we started. So, got a first. Can I get a second, please? Thank you, Ms. Van Buskirk. Ms. Van Buskirk was. All right, so we'll call a vote on the approval of the August 6th minutes. Better late than never. Alderwoman Mims.
Yes.
Alderwoman Van Buskirk.
Yes.
Alderman Myers.
Yes.
Alderman Frank Hunt.
Yes.
And I will vote yes as well. Unanimously approved. Okay. All right. So now we're going to jump into the public safety sales tax portion. And again, I'd like to ask if there's any major changes that address that immediately, and then we'll have the board go forth and ask questions.
No, there isn't. The Russ took the same strategy as Mr. Keenan last year, it's very helpful, especially for budget analysis purposes, as just transferring in money from the public safety sales tax into our calculations for general fund. If you remember, take like 1.1 million estimated expense from the public safety sales tax and roll it into the general fund, so that most of those expenses, it's because you're paying for some officers out of PSST and some out of general fund, putting them together just makes analysis easier. So really the only thing that we're buying that out of the public safety sales tax that would need to go before the stock committee are some utilities, mainly cell phones, that sort of thing, and some services charged and maintenance things for various software. It's actually gone down from last year. Last year, our services and supplies was $13,305. This year, it's $11,400. Utilities went from $28,872 to $24,960. So those are actually down as well. One thing that's worth noting is right now our general fund transfer out is $1.1 million, whereas last year it was $1.5 million, for a difference of $432,000. There's really nothing to describe. There's no enhancements or extra asks in any of our public safety sales tax requests at this point. Should all be listed in your book there.
Does anybody have a question regarding the Public Safety Sales Tax Fund?
I'm good.
Okay. All right. So we'll move on to the, I guess, well, let me ask a question real quick. Because some of the money that comes out of the capital sales, the police, there's some police funds there, correct? Would anyone have an issue if I kind of just, since we have you here already, because I have a question about capital sales tax, if we skip the public works for a second and do capital sales and then jump into public works, is that okay?
Yeah, I've got a couple things to talk about there anyway.
Okay, so I'll open it up to have you speak about the capital sales, and then I have a question later on, and thank you.
Our capital sales tax request, obviously we worked with, Damon was the coordinator, I guess, in evaluating the various ways that we're going to use the capital sales tax. Right up front, this seems like we ask for it every year is radios. This is the last year we'll have to buy radios unless, we add officers. We'll be fully transitioned after this. It's our last 6 in both the mobiles and handhelds that we need to transfer to the new system, or upgrade, I should say. The replacement workstations and network server, that's just part of we do an annual rotation of computers, so we don't have to replace all of them like every 5 years or 6 years. We basically just buy a few every year, so it's a recurring expense and it minimizes the year-to-year impact. This is part of our annual rotation that we've had in place for many years. Of course, body armor is the same deal. That stuff wears out. We've got to replace it. The real big change here, or not change, a big request is this mobile ticketing. You see for $45,000. That's really what I wanted to speak on for a second there is, the courts in Missouri are undergoing a lot of change in their court rules. And one of the things that's happening is something called Show Me Courts, and it's basically a statewide court system. And along with those changes, one of the things that the court rules are changing that does right now, when we issue tickets, the court enters them. Okay, they do the data entry piece to get it into the system. What's that? Okay, well, what we're going to is Ross is going to have to manually do the data entry. That's from the July 1 change, yeah. I misspoke a little bit there. We ran into some changes just last month. The court was doing all of them. Right now, Ross is having to enter them data entry-wise. He doesn't have a staff for that, okay? If we go to, we worked with Damon and Judge Fan and Mr. Nigro on how that's complicating his operations. We can solve that by a mobile ticketing program, and basically what this amount does is allows us to buy handheld ticketing devices and some for codes, and it would allow that data input. It would be automated, basically, and quite a bit more efficient, frankly. Minimize our errors in handwriting out tickets versus scanning a driver's license in or actually punching it into the keypad. And it would keep Ross, or Mr. Niger rather, from having to sit down at a terminal and do data entry. Through our discussions, he's in the position where he may have to ask for staff if we don't come up with a better solution, just due to the time it takes for him to do that.
So this is a one-time expense.
Yeah, there's an annual expense of around $2,500.
Is that for the software?
It's just the maintenance, about
Okay.
$2,500 going forward.
Yeah.
This is the one-time.
The actual capital expense, okay, for that, okay. Alderman Myers?
I was just going to say, I like that idea. I like efficiency, and I take it's going to be like the same system that Kansas City has.
Right. Well, and actually, we found out that Show Me Courts is going to be addressing Jackson County between October of this year and May of next year. So this just became a little more pressing. We've been hearing about Show Me Courts for years, but they notified us. Actually, we found out this week that we're up next. So the timing's good to get our system in place.
Surprise. Okay.
Yeah, it was yesterday, I guess. Actually, we found out yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, I'm totally on board with that, especially because we still hand-wrote tickets. I can't believe that we still did that, but yeah, I like it.
One of the things we did is we're replacing one fewer marked unit to kind of offset that.
And I don't know if you have any more, but I was going to ask if the marked unit, is that an SUV or like we have, or?
Yeah, it'll likely be an SUV.
Okay. And then the upfit is for the light, sirens, and whatever?
All the computer stand and all the infrastructure stuff that goes into it.
Okay. Cool.
And that's all I have for capital. Nice thing about having a small budget, there's not much to talk about.
Yeah. I appreciate going through all all of that with us. I did have a question about the workstation. A few years back, obviously, with the remodel and stuff, there was a lot of furniture that was purchased. Could you give me an explanation on that? The 8 workstations on the under capital?
Workstations are computers. It's not desks.
Okay.
They're computers.
So computers. Okay. So I'm thinking first when I think workstations, I'm thinking of
No, they just
my
call
furniture.
Okay. They just call them workstations. It's a computer.
Okay, so we have that, and then with the radios, you said that. I mean, this is kind of. I mean, obviously, this won't be the last expense with radios, but I feel like every year. I mean, is it just normal practice that these radios go bad? They're so expensive. I should have gotten the radio business.
I've submitted that.
I was telling my students this today, actually, when I was going over the budget, when I should have been working. But anyway.
I know the changes because we bought radios, started buying them 5 or 6 years ago. Don't hold me to these dates. But the region started to go to a P25 compliance. They established this Mars region, and the equipment we had at the time wasn't compliant. So we had to begin upgrading.
But this is the last of that, is what you said.
Yeah.
I just remember you said something briefly to that a minute ago.
We're still going to need to buy radio batteries and antennas
of course.
and break and stuff like that. But the actual big expense, the hardware itself, unless they come out of the blue and change it all up again, then which you never know.
Yeah.
But then we should be done.
Thank you for giving me explanation on that. Oh, yeah. Alderwoman Mims.
Good evening. I thought I was going to be real quiet down here. Could you tell me what is the replacement of a marked unit?
Yeah, it's a patrol car.
What happened to it?
We use a vehicle replacement plan, and as they get high mileage and the garage starts spending a lot of money keeping them up and running, we rotate one out and auction it and buy a new one.
Oh. Okay, and my next question is uplifted marking of new vehicles. How many new vehicles?
Well, I should say vehicle. We originally had 2 vehicles in here, and we took one out, so it looks like we missed an S.
Okay. I got so 1 vehicle.
Yes, ma'am.
And so you replaced the one that you
Rotate out.
rotated out. Okay. I'm making notes so I don't forget. Okay. Then I came down, I'm skipping the radios. I didn't want to deal with those. That's it from me.
Okay.
All right. Alderwoman Van Buskirk.
Joke, you might say. I just noticed on here the expenses for hotels and things when you go to conferences, and I thought it was kind of high. I just wanted to remind you that Motel 8 keeps their light on for you guys, so, you might
Noted.
might want to try Motel 8 and save us some money. No, seriously, I appreciate the work that you guys do.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, that was in the general fund one, I think you mentioned. Okay, so if no one else has any other questions, well, actually, you know what, let's hand over, I guess, let's go ahead and finish up the capital sales tax fund, but this may have to go questions for Damon, so I don't believe there's any more with the police department. So unless you had something else to say, Chief, or?
No, I'm trying to, answer questions and keep it, simple. We stand by for direction.
So, all right, well, we really thank you for your candor and your time, and appreciate it. Thank you both. Thank you. All right. Damon, I think we'll go ahead and start with capital sales tax fund, since we're already on that, if you don't mind, sir, and then we can pop back to Public Works.
Sure. The capital sales fund. The ones you'll see, the first one is our salt barn. We purchased it a few years back, but with salt and residue, it tends to cause the paint to peel quicker than probably what you typically see on a house. So we're looking at this year at repainting that barn to keep it up for us. It holds all of our salt for the most part. The other one is replacing the one we talked to you about last year. It's our next replacement. We've had a large vehicle that we have with the Sterling. It's getting pretty old. And actually the dealership really, in order to get parts, is pretty costly. So we're looking at replacing it with another one. These are snow vehicles that we utilize along with other items that we utilize for it. So we've been one by one replacing. As we replace it, we sell that one and come back with the other one. The next one is a spreader. This should be our last two spreaders that we had some replaced before. These go on both our smaller and our larger vehicles. Your spreaders, the ones on the back, they tend to, after so many years, how many years have we had that one, Tony, would you say?
The ones we're working on right now
Since 2003. So they have done their duty and served us well. And now they're time to replace them. We've just been trying to do two at a time as we go through it. The next one here, those last four are all sewer. 6030 Woodson is actually a pipelining project. Those are one of the major ones is the 84th and Arlington Stormwater Project. Something that's been on our list for quite some time. We looked at it in the capital side. If we have any of those projects we can do this year, we will try to fit them in. If we have any savings on our regarding some projects we have out to bid now, we're working on that part too. So that list could decrease before next year. We're trying to do what we can on our end as far as utilizing the funds that we have. So right now we have 5 projects that are out. They're being designed, and we're going to put out for bid. And once those come back, so if we have any savings in those, we will utilize that for those projects. Any questions on those?
My question is not related to Public Works on the capital sales. It was related to this citywide,
Okay.
the improvements at City Hall, the storage in the office. If you could
Sure,
give me
I
a
can
little
expand on that.
information about that,
What we
please.
have run into, and that amount, we are working on to try to get a better idea. What we run into is ultimately we run out of space. We have certain files that have to be stored for a particular time limit, one in not only in finance, but also in our records regarding public works projects, also in our records regarding courts, our records regarding community development. We have to keep them for a certain time period. Also, our medical records that we have. Right now, space-wise, we don't have it. And also, clerk-wise, we have records that we have to keep. And we've looked at areas to try to figure out where we can sign or kind of figure out space-wise. And we've been using outdoor buildings to put those in, but they're not very good when it comes to cooling. Some of them get moisture damage. Some of them are not usable after they get damaged. But we're required to keep those in a safe, dry place. If you notice in the back, we have a couple of those, they call it containers, but those containers are not a useful item for the records we need to keep. And we've been utilizing containers quite a bit. I think thus far we own about 4, and we ran about 2. And that's quite a bit in comparison to what we would like to have. So we were looking at maybe opportunities to look internally, figure out some spacing to help out with condensing some office space and creating more storage space, also creating more of an office environment in areas. The $200,000 was one we were looking at, but we're trying to get a better idea from talking to people who deal with space management to help us get a better, idea regarding the finances. We don't look at this being a one-time project. This might be a continuation, but it's something that needs to be done and spoken to.
So I take it that a lot of the records that you were mentioning about having storage space for, is that something that you can't digitize, it can't be scanned? I mean, you have to keep the originals and such? Is that, I don't know,
A little bit of both.
To be in compliance?
Some we have to keep actual records, actual hard copies. Others we too try to digitize as much as we can. But even that costs funds for that storage, for that digital storage. So whatever we can, we have been trying to digitize.
Okay, so you're talking about an overall, not just this year, but trying to appropriate money to, I mean, I guess the question would be is that, there's only so much remodeling you can do.
You can do, true. And that's what we've been looking at. Even if we have an option to do offsite, an area where we could create it there too, but that us having accessibility is something we truly have to look at. So we have been kind of looking at the number and maybe saying this year we kind of do more of a analysis of it before we make the move towards what we need to do. But we have to make some type of adjustments. We've also looked at other outside storage units to see if maybe we can go to another building, which means takes our items to that building. But that has not really panned out because those we have to be accessible to, and only so many people can have access to them, things of that sort.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. You think about it, at some point you spend so much money, like at what point do you make the decision to maybe there's some kind of, like you mentioned, offsite or expansion or whatever to take place.
Yes.
If it's going to be some kind of long-term cost that's going to come down the road as well. So.
Yes, I mean, like those storage units, what are we paying them? $125 a month.
Yeah.
And looked at, I mean, by the time we've paid for them, we've paid for buying one. But you also, is it what you need long-term wise to continue doing that?
But you guys are
it's
looking
not
into
feasible.
that, like maybe even trying to look at not just other options, but I mean, and seriously, like, you know, an expansion of some sort or some kind of offsite in the space back here. I mean, I guess you just have to have an idea of beyond this year of what the cost would be.
We do, and do it as we've discussed it internally. One of the things we need to do is, you know, look at a consultant that can help us with those type of items. Look at what our building can do and cannot do. Ultimately, we don't want to knock out a wall and then all of a sudden need to put it back. You know, so you want to make sure you're doing it strategically and plan it out. So that's our desire for this upcoming year.
I appreciate you shedding some light on that.
My basement's empty if you need it.
We probably got enough basements too.
All right. So if no one has any questions, maybe if there's anything else you'd like to bring up
Sure,
regarding capital
I can
sales.
speak to the sidewalk improvements. That one will probably be a collaboration between once we do our actual citywide sidewalk improvements. But around City Hall, a lot of the sidewalks have been, I mean, over the years, they need to be replaced. We've had one that we just did what we call a mud jacking project on. To try to lift it up. That was a trip hazard. And with us being an ADA compliant building, a requirement of ADA as a government building, we have to do some replacement and some adjustments. That's what that's for. Where you have the chip out curve, you can't have more than a particular difference in your sidewalk and your elevations. And so that's what we've been looking at. And when we do that project, we will probably require to do a little landscaping improvements because if you take out some sidewalk, you're going to damage your grassed area and your landscaped areas. And those two will probably be a combination of the two. The upgrade of the city website and the media, our website was done in 2008, 10 timeframe, and has not been updated. So our desire is to update the website and bring something that's more accessible. We have a lot of our citizens who have asked that it be more user-friendly, and so we're working towards that direction. So this upcoming year, we're looking at adding assets to our website, redesigning it so it's more user-friendly and more compatible with today's times. If you think about it, how many people now utilize their phones in comparison to probably less than 8 to 10 years ago when everyone used a larger computer. So a lot of our website is not as very compatible when it comes to phone operation. So those are the type of things we want to look at advising or revising.
Does anyone have any questions regarding capital sales by chance? Okay, I think if you prefer, maybe just since you're all up here, go on to Public Works. All right.
Here's a yeah. All right. Good evening. Regarding the general fund, it's pretty similar to what you heard with the police department. Some of our increases happen through things like health insurance and things of that sort. But for the most part, we try to stay flat as to where we were. We did add, like for instance, we decreased our consulting services and tree service, other items to try to help to make up of any areas we may have increased slightly. One of the things we did too in it was further down in building maintenance. We added to that. That was a $10,000 increase, but it was because of building supplies. We were breaking it out, and it was not in an actual line item of itself, and we utilized the actual line item for that one. But we decreased other areas to help out to make up for that. The other one that we looked at, and it's been asked for quite a bit, was our street lights. Well, am I moving too fast for everybody? That's in utilities. Okay. And our utilities, If you notice, we're at about 525 for electricity, 400,000 for your streetlights. We kept that amount at 525, which is similar to what it was last year. This year we came and asked for a transfer out of that account in order to help out with paying for the storm damage that we had this previous year. And that 30,000 plus that we asked for, we're leaving it in this budget with the objective of working with KCP&L and adding additional streetlights. It's been something that's been asked for in the past, and so we're working on them, and we wanted to keep that in there. We lease our streetlights, which includes the maintenance, upkeep that we have, that we don't, staff-wise, that would not be something we would take on or have the capability currently to take on. So we're looking at keeping that at the same. It did not decrease, which last year our budget was $2,160,000. This year's 2.2, so about a $40,000 difference. Majority of that came with the health insurance and our the other insurance we had, which one? Liability insurance that we had the changes on. Majority of the other items we pretty much stayed the same. Our fuel costs, we did decrease some of that. Ultimately, with the amount of staff that we had, we were able to kind of decrease that. But taking into consideration this past year with the amount of snow that we had, we still want to look at keeping it close to the same. This year, we've worked on hiring more employees. We had a little turnover when we come to maintenance staff, but we're continuing to truck. I would thank Tony and his staff for what they're doing. I mean, we're down 4 maintenance staff out of 6. And that's quite significant when you start to look at your snow removal. So this year we've been kind of back and forth with that, but we're working on getting that stabilized and hopefully get some good people want to look at some long-term careers and not a short-term fix. So that's our desire on that one.
Yeah, well, I'm happy you brought that up, considering the fact that, there's obviously a degree of volatility every year when it comes to budgeting towards this. And last year we got hit hard, and that was a big increase. Alderman Ryan Myers.
Damon, on the fuel category, there's $25,000 for the fire department. Was that what we're finishing up with the transfer?
Actually, no. That's we put that in the budget, but they reimburse us.
Okay.
So they utilize our fuel tank, but they pay us back monthly for that.
Gotcha. Okay.
So.
Is there anything else you'd like to bring up regarding Public Works that's significant? I know you brought up the insurance, and I'd also defer to my fellow aldermen if they have any questions at this point regarding Public Works. Okay.
We can go to our...
Yeah. Are you still wanting to stay on Public? You got something else to say with Public Works, or do you want to move on?
Yes, we are. We're going to go to the sewer
The sewer
fund,
part, okay.
which is part of the Public Works portion of it. You'll see our next meeting in September, you'll have the finance portion of that. This is the Public Works portion of it. This one here, we decreased some, but as we look back, and initially when I set our capital budget, we had not finalized our personnel side. So our desire is that we would like to increase that to $300,000 for our capital. Capital is what we utilize to do projects, major projects. Like this year, we're doing a lining project and another sanitary sewer replacement project, correct? And by the way, I got Jason and Tony here to help me out. But next year, we would like to do additional capital projects. You also would notice, what's the other one that was kind of design-wise, professional services. We have $100,000 there. That is what we're looking for regarding having a designer to come and help us not only with our capital outlay for the sanitary sewer, but also designing a couple of projects for us regarding sanitary sewer. Sanitary sewer, as I've been told since I got here, is something that has needs attention and constant attention. If you think about the use of it, and you think about the fact that our residents pay for that service, so we want to utilize professionals and their expertise to help us with designing projects that would help us with not only decreasing our flow. So we pay both sides, and you'll kind of hear this a little later in our board meeting, Kansas City and Little Blue Valley. Well, what tends to happen is that the flow that you pay towards Blue Valley, when you have what you call I&I, which is pretty much infiltration from groundwater, that increases your amount that you pay. So our desire is to try to replace older pipes, line older pipes, and continue our maintenance for that. So that's about it on that one.
Is there any questions regarding the sewer fund? Alderman Ryan Myers.
Okay, so 150,000 for emergency repair. Is that enough?
No. but it's what we have, right?
Okay.
Yes.
And I know we're talking about capital, so I could have sworn, but was there any plans on putting a capital plan together?
Yes.
Okay.
That was part of that 100,000.
It's part of the 100?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
All right, thank you. Okay. Want to transcend into stormwater?
Stormwater. You guys have anything? All right, stormwater's pretty short and sweet. We get $200,000, $230,000. After we pay for our permits, that leaves us right around $220,000. We divide that up, and $120,000 of that goes towards emergency repairs, and the other $100,000 goes towards stormwater repairs and maintenance. I didn't get to send a picture. I think I showed a couple. We had a resident that brought in 2 pictures. One was before, to kind of give you an idea what we use that $100,000 for. We have a stormwater crew of about 3 of our maintenance workers. They do a good job of doing what they can with 3 people. This one here was a culvert that ended up being filled up to where a couple of ducks decided to make it home. We removed it, cleaned out the culvert, took out the ditch, and realigned it. And now the guy was very pleased to where he was willing enough to come up and thank us personally for it. So that $100,000, we utilize it and as best as we can. This is part of the reason why we use some of the capital to kind of leverage both of those funds.
Yeah, you're 100% obviously correct. You know, that ain't going to get you far with that money. And obviously every year it seems to kind of, decrease, and the situation gets worse in that regard in terms of these repairs. So does anybody on the board have a question regarding the stormwater fund? All right, very clear. All righty. Well, thank you. And we'll go ahead and move on to the transportation sales tax fund.
Yes, a transportation sales tax fund. This one here, the majority of it is doing for your repair and maintenance. If you notice there, we have $400,000 for our overlay project. Our desire is to increase it. Before last year, we had $270 this current year. Because if we get done with the we're bidding out currently the 350 highway project in Raytown and Traffic Way. So we were able to utilize some funds this year to increase our overlay portion. The other one is the sidewalk is $100,000, annual seal is $100,000, and then the other 2 are our pretty much maintenance projects, marking and crack seal. That makes up over $600,000 of the fund itself, which is $1 million. So majority of that goes towards the maintenance projects there. The next portion is our salt contingency. You notice this year we put $100,000. In the years past we put $65. This past year we spent over $100,000 this past year with our maintenance on the street. That's our salt purchases, things of that sort that we use to treat during snow.
Alderman Ryan Myers.
I'm full of questions tonight, Damon. Sorry.
No problem.
20 grand for Rock Island. What exactly that's going to do?
That was just the contingency in case we needed by like some signage or something that will be on our portion of the project.
Okay.
The Rock Island project is, I'm thank you for bringing that up. It's still ongoing, the project itself. They've started near Blue Ridge on the Kansas City side, and they're working their way towards this side, which would be on the Raytown side. As part of their things, they will not be on the track. They'll just be building the trail.
Okay.
They're still thinking about a 2-year project, so
Gotcha.
they'll be going into next year. At that time, we'll kind of look to see what we might do. I've been put 20,000 in there, and it came from last year, just kind of roll over this year in case we need some additional things. One of the things Alderman Green brought up, we were looking at them, was lights under 63rd Street. They included those, but there may be some things we may need to do on our end that I think would be more beneficial to our residents regarding that.
So the lights wouldn't be.
They will pay.
That wouldn't be part of Jackson County right away?
It will be part of Jackson County. I'm saying stuff that may direct them. us from our-
Okay,
yeah.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah, our money would not be towards that, though.
And then the KCATA, I know this is a long shot, but 60 grand, we spend it every year. I know that because the
Yeah.
guy comes in and we talk about it. And I know one of the things that Mayor Lucas was working on in Kansas City was the possibility of making the ATA totally free. Is there
Yes.
any risk of impact on that $60,000 and if it's going to go up on our end?
I have not heard from them yet regarding that. I did see I saw an article from KCATA, but we have not heard anything regarding changing on our end.
Okay.
So.
That's all I got.
That's it on our end. That'll be it on our end regarding our funds.
Appreciate you giving the update regarding the Rock Island situation and the lighting and such. There were some concerns there in regards to some areas. Does anyone else on the board have any other questions regarding the transportation sales tax fund? Okay, well, I appreciate everyone's time and candor this evening. With that, I'd like to see someone make a motion to adjourn. Ms. Mims and Alderman Ryan Myers second. We'll go ahead and take a vote. Alderwoman Mims? Yes. Alderman Myers? Yes. Alderman Van Buskirk? Alderman Frank Hunt?
Yes.
And I'll vote yes as well. This meeting's adjourned at 6:55, surprisingly.